All right, guys, back with another recovery video for Apollo. Today I specifically want to talk about what we can do for some things that you might be feeling with your lower back. Now, oftentimes we think that because of that lower back pain that we're feeling, and it could be tension when we hinge or when we're squatting, whatever the case may be, could be less of your hamstrings or your glutes, and it could be actually your hip flexors being super tight. And so it's a muscle that connects at our lumbar spine and goes into our hip. And if this is super tight and it's creating this position where our hip wants to go forward, it's putting a lot of stress on our lower back. And there's a few different ways that we can stretch that and apply some muscle release practices that'll help a lot and maybe alleviating some of that lower back pain that you're feeling. Now, a really good test for you to see if maybe that's what you're feeling is to identify what your hip is doing in a neutral position when you're just relaxing. Now, what we're trying to see here is our butt going super far back. What we're going to call this is the anterior tilt of your hip. Now, if you have a lot of range of motion to go in that position, this probably isn't your problem. It's probably your hamstrings. But if you're already in a position here and you're trying to move it further back and you're not getting much range of motion, this is probably what's happening to you. You have those tight hip flexors. So these are the stretches that we can do. Each one of these will cycle through this, but it's going to be similar to what you'll see in a Samson stretch, right? We're going to lunge forward. And as I do this, now with my leading leg, I'm going to lean over in this position. And as I do this, this hip is open. I'm stretching this side of my hip flexor. Now we want to keep this symmetrical so you can go through both sides. Making sure, again, trailing knee isn't touching the ground. I'm leaning same direction as my leading leg. And I would want you to cycle through this about 10 times. Slow control it, be methodical with it, make sure you're feeling that stretch in the right position. What's really important is that you keep your torso in an upright position. So that's the first thing. This is working the ends of the muscles, but we still need to work the middle of that hip flexor. So a really good way to do that is to apply tension. We can't do that through a roller. What we can do is take a baseball or a lacrosse ball or whatever we have and get in there with a weighted object. It's really convenient to have a kettlebell, but it could be anything that's going to allow pressure to be applied to the lacrosse ball into our hip flexor. Now, when you're trying to find this, your reference should be find your belly button, find the top of your hip, and you're going to meet in the middle. And that's going to be a good reference point to start off with. Now, when we try to apply pressure here, it's not going to be straight down, but rather I want it to be towards the spine, and that's really going to push towards that hip flexor. So that's the goal, and I'll demonstrate it here. We want to do this for at least 1 minute as we go into this position. So I'm going to find the top of my hip, find my belly button, and I'm going to place it in the center. Now all I have to do is grab my kettlebell, and again, I'm going to try to push towards the spine. Immediately I found my hip flexor. It's very tender, and I'm going to hang out here and relax for 1 minute. Switch, get the other side, and now always do a test and retest, right? So if you're experiencing this pain when you're hinging over, do that initially. Do this mobility stretch or this rolling technique afterwards and see if it makes a difference. And you can do that with any stretch you see and experiment with it, see what helps with it. But I hope that helps, guys. Hope that alleviates some of the back pain you might be having, and I'll see you next week.